Police officers in London carried out vehicle checks overnight, steps away from Britain's Parliament, where Wednesday's deadly rampage was carried out.
The location of this attack was no accident. The terrorists chose to strike at the heart of our capital city.
There has been a terror attack.
This video, captured by a tourist, shows some of the injured lying along the popular Westminster Bridge, after authorities say the suspect intentionally ran them over with a car.
There was a lot of noises, people running. We couldn't tell what's wrong.
They say the man then slammed the vehicle into the gates of Parliament before getting out of the car and stabbing 48-year-old police officer Keith Palmer to death. The chaos finally ended when a police officer shot and killed the suspect.
We think we know who the attacker is, and as I say, we're working to look at associates.
The incident is the latest in a series of recent terror attacks here in Europe, where lone wolves have used vehicles as their weapon of choice.
Who is going to be able to stop anybody with a desire to kill and an ideology from hiring a truck or buying a car?
As British authorities face the possibility of having been just attacked by terrorists, a new message on Wednesday from Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, with a warning that soon Europeans will no longer be able to walk safely on their streets. Tensions have been increasing between Turkey and the EU for months, starting with a ban the EU launched against Turkey when Germany and the Netherlands banned several Turkish ministers from holding campaign rallies for the upcoming Turkish referendum. It's not the first time Erdogan has threatened Europe. However, it is the first time the Turkish leader has verbally threatened the safety of European citizens directly.
US troops now participating in military exercises with their Romanian counterparts, while French and British troops deploy to Estonia. It's all part of a new NATO pivot towards the eastern flank, hoping to integrate forces as a means to counter Russian aggression.
We're showing some of our air defense capabilities. We're integrating with different units and just simulating a beach assault.
They're absolutely amazing. And it's great to get knowledge on their amount of skills that we don't have.
But any response from NATO could be stalled by a new dispute between two powerful NATO allies, with Turkey accusing the German government of behaving like Nazis towards some Turkish citizens in Germany.
The purpose of the Turkish swipes is to objectify, break every taboo with no regard to the suffering of those who were persecuted and murdered under Nazism.
Another complication, Russia's announcement on Monday of a new military base in northern Syria, in territory controlled by US-backed Kurdish forces, who Turkey views as an enemy. The move could drive a wedge between Turkey and the West, at a time when the Trump administration is seeking unity in the fight against ISIS. The Turkish government also saying on Monday that its forces were ready to take part in an offensive to retake Raqqa, the self-proclaimed capital of ISIS, if US-backed Kurdish forces did not take part.
Turkish forces have fired into Kurdish-controlled northwestern Syria after a Turkish soldier was reportedly shot by militants near the Turkey-Syrian border. The US-backed Kurdish militia group, the YPG, has denied the claim and condemned Turkey for Wednesday's shelling, saying it injured at least 10 civilians.
A British newspaper has published a striking article warning English fans that they could be killed if they attend the 2018 World Cup in Russia. The revelations are based on what is called a brutal street battle in Moscow. The tabloid considered its findings so sensational that it published not one, but two articles. However, the video and photos showing the violent Russian hooligans is actually a play fight acted out at an annual folk festival that celebrates the end of winter. We asked the newspaper itself about the controversial content of the story. The Daily Mirror gave this statement saying all the images used in the story are from an organised fight in Moscow as part of bank holiday celebrations. But after our channel gave some clarification to the so-called violence, the article has undergone some changes. Let's take a look. First, the word ultras or radical fans was removed from the captions under pictures, and some photos were even deleted. However, no correction notice has been given, and the video of the play fight is still at the top of the article, wrongly titled as Russian football fans. Another element remains unchanged, a photo of an elderly woman selling clothes and toys. The capture surprisingly says these are people living in fear.
North Korea says it has nothing to fear from any US move to broaden sanctions aimed at cutting it off from the global financial system. Envoys say Pyongyang plans to pursue an acceleration of its nuclear and missile programs, which have put it at odds with the international community. Senior U.S. officials in Washington say the Trump administration is considering sweeping sanctions as part of a broad review of measures to counter North Korea's nuclear and missile threat.
Threat posed by North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, end quote.
Analysts think it likely that North Korea has mastered the technology to power the different stages of an intercontinental ballistic missile and may show it off soon.
On Wednesday, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said that the United States would set up interim zones of stability to help refugees return home in the next phase of the fight against Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. While Tillerson did not make clear where these zones were to be set up, he did say that the United States will increase our pressure on ISIS and Al-Qaeda and will work to establish interim zones of stability through ceasefires to allow refugees to return home. Politico reports that the Trump administration is asking a federal appeals court to expedite its review of President Donald Trump's revised travel ban executive order. On Wednesday, the Justice Department asked the federal appeals court in Richmond to speed up its handling of the federal government's efforts to overturn an injunction. Earlier this month, a judge from Maryland prevented Trump from implementing a ban on issuance of visas to citizens of 6 majority Muslim countries. Hawaii has also filed a similar suit, but on a broader scale, by also blocking the 120-day suspension of refugee admissions from around the world.
Tonight, a senior law enforcement official tells NBC News ISIS may be getting help from Al-Qaeda, a disturbing development following the new electronics ban. It affects flights into the U.S. from 8 majority Muslim countries and was ordered after intelligence discovered ISIS operatives sought to plant explosives in laptops and other electronics.
I think what you have is 2 different groups that compete with each other, but both of which have the same mission: to shock the world by bringing down an international airliner.
Calling the intelligence extremely sensitive, security officials would not confirm if ISIS was developing an explosive that could be hidden in a laptop, similar to the attack that blew a hole in this plane last year over Somalia. The new policy, to be implemented by Saturday, restricts electronics larger than a smartphone from the cabin.
It becomes much more difficult to carry out a successful attack if the device is not located on the person of the individual carrying out the attack.
Officials have long feared Al-Qaeda's master bomb maker, Ibrahim al-Asiri, who helped develop the underwear bomb, may be sharing his trade secrets. For now, the ban affects 10 airports, some 50 flights a day. But some say the new policy could change the way we all fly in the future.
Wednesday, March 22nd, the FBI was questioned by both Republicans and Democrats about the facial recognition software they use to identify potential suspects. They believe the FBI software invades American privacy, inspires racial bias, and leads to the arrest of innocent people. Stephen Lynch, Democrat, Massachusetts, stated, "I have zero confidence in the FBI and the Justice Department, frankly, to keep this in check. This is really Nazi Germany here, what we're talking about, and I see little difference in the way people are being tracked under this. Just getting one wide net and getting information on all American citizens."
Well, meanwhile, questions are now being raised on whether or not the tide could be turning the debate over the Second Amendment, with the Trump administration now in office. Alicia Kuna is live in Denver with more on all this. So, Alicia, what is the impact of the Trump presidency now on the Republican Congress when it comes to gun rights?
Oh, hi, Eric. Yeah, the Second Amendment Foundation told us they think governors and legislators are making good on promises they made during election season. National reciprocity has been revived with bills in both the U.S. House and Senate. If passed, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act would allow gun owners with concealed carry licenses from where they live to carry in other states.
Your rights don't end at your state border. Your right of self-protection would be all across the country. Other states would be recognizing that permit the same way they recognize your driver's license today. So if I drive my car into a neighboring state, my license is good. It would be the same thing if you had a license to carry a concealed firearm for self-protection. That license would be good all over.
President Trump received more than $10.5 million from the NRA as a candidate, and just this week at a rally in Louisville, he reaffirmed his commitment to protect the Second Amendment.
Many California communities are experiencing recent rates of childhood lead poisoning that surpass those of Flint, Michigan. According to blood testing data obtained by Reuters, one section of Fresno has shown rates of lead poisoning nearly 3 times higher than Flint. The data shows how lead poisoning is affecting a state known for its environmental advocacy. High rates of childhood exposure have also been found in the Bay Area and downtown Los Angeles. These figures show that despite efforts to remove lead-based products, hazards still remain in these areas of California.
And Brazil's government, of course, is trying to save its export meat sector from that scandal. Brazil's agriculture minister has appealed to the World Trade Organization not to penalize the country's $13 billion meat export sector. It comes after some of Brazil's major trading partners, including China, Japan and the EU, suspended imports of beef and chicken from Brazil.
José Crispin has been working with cattle all his life. He lives in Paulínia, one of the many beef-producing areas in Brazil. Last week, police revealed that beef and poultry factories were bribing authorities to extend the expiration date on some products. They also said they were using chemicals to conceal rotten food. José Crispin says he's worried.
We work hard for this sector, and we know the country is not doing well. Now the crisis of the meat. That is our job. We have a calendar for vaccination. We follow all the rules we are asked to. We ensure that all the livestock we have here reaches high quality levels.
People here are fearing the consequences of the meat and poultry scandal. They claim that it's a sector that employs over 400,000 people, and that with the current economic crisis, Brazil cannot afford to lose any more jobs.
People are unhappy in Ukraine, according to the World Happiness Index compiled by the United Nations. Ukraine was ranked 132nd out of 155 states. Many people associated the low rating with the conflict in eastern Ukraine, the economic crisis and government corruption.
We are
from Mariupol. We just left the city and the shelling of the city outskirts started. Everything is serious. The war has not stopped as it is reported in the news.
People do not have material comfort. People are unhappy because they cannot buy what they want.
If we take Poroshenko, well, what has he achieved? People voted for him with hopes. But we have mafia and corruption.
The index takes into account factors such as GDP, per capita life expectancy, social support, absence of corruption, freedom to make decisions and charity. Ukraine's economy grew by 2.3%, while the country improved its position in corruption barometer by 2 points in 2016. But in the happiness index, Ukraine moved 9 steps down compared to last year.
It is because nothing changed. People expected something more, but things are getting worse and worse.
Sick and tired. These Venezuelans suffer from chronic illnesses. They say they can no longer afford or even find the medicine needed to treat their symptoms.
The politicians are killing us because we don't have medicine. We are dying. We could have better quality of life with medicine, but we don't have them, and they are too expensive.
Venezuela is in the grips of an economic recession. The crisis has led to a shortage of medicine and has created a public health emergency. The Pharmaceutical Association says 85 of every 100 medicines are unavailable. Sufferers of cancer, Parkinson's, and transplant patients united and called for the government to do more.
There are no drugs for diabetes and for many other health conditions, so we have come to form a chain of life for ourselves. Enough already. How many deaths do we want?
President Nicolas Maduro has blamed the shortages on detractors, trying to undermine him. He said he's approved spending to increase access to drugs, but details remain unclear. It's not only medicine that's lacking. There's also a shortage of food, leaving some people to scavenge for it wherever they can.
I have a fixed salary, a minimum wage, which is not enough. I can't afford products, so I'm forced to do this.
And he's not alone. A A study recently found that 93% of Venezuelans can't afford sufficient food for their families. As shortages continue, many are left to fend for themselves.
It's harvest time in the salt fields alongside the Gulf of Thailand. Lopong and his workers start early in the morning to rake up their crop. As they've done for decades, farmers flood their fields with water from the sea. When the water evaporates in the burning sun, it leaves behind a crust of salt. 2 years of drought, a nightmare for most farmers, has meant big salt harvests. But that surplus has seen prices crash from the break-even figure of $40 a cart to just $14 now. Faced with falling incomes, farmers thought they'd found a solution when a new industry, renewable power, wanted to rent or buy their large flat fields to erect solar panels. But the salt farmers have met with stiff opposition. These same fields at the water's edge are home to many species of migratory birds. And conservationists claim development and the sun's reflection from row after row of solar panels is driving the birds away. Conservationists say up to 500,000 seabirds use this area as a resting place during their annual migration. Much of the district has been listed as wetlands of national significance. With land constantly being lost to development, conservationists claim the birds have fewer and fewer places. But farmers say their livelihood is under threat and they need an income to survive.
A new study paints an alarming picture for the future of the rice industry. Researchers have found that a high level of surface ozone pollution is wreaking havoc on a stage of the rice plant's development in China, the world's largest producer of the staple crop.
Peaks in ozone when you have 2 or 3 really bad days of high surface ozone, which is like air pollution, it can have a huge impact on yield, a negative impact.
The scientists found that rice yields can be affected by as much as 2%, a serious statistic given that China produces 30% of the global rice crop. Just 8% of global rice production is traded internationally, with the rest consumed in its country of origin. This means any production fall can prove devastating to those in poor countries. Surface ozone pollution is directly tied to the emission of nitrogen oxides produced by cars, power plants, and refineries, all part of a rapidly growing industrialized landscape in China.
Another important factor is the pollution's not improving in China, it's getting worse. So if you look at some of the projections for increased ozone pollution in China, these numbers will increase.
And as yield losses increase, the impact on the global rice market rises. The researchers say that left unchecked, rice prices could rise by 20% in the years to come.
This will have an impact on the price of rice throughout the world. It'll impact the price of rice in Africa, in India, in Pakistan. So it's not just the Chinese consumers who are affected, but globally the rice industry will be affected.
The study points to a future where the price could threaten global food security, leaving the world's poorest, who depend on rice as a staple food, at increased risk of malnutrition and starvation.
Right, it's time now for Focus, and to mark World Water Day, we have a report from Pakistan where there's a water crisis. With its largely agriculture-based economy, Pakistan has the world's 4th highest rate of water use, a study warning the country may run dry by 2025.
Fantastic, there's water. Come on, come this way.
The scene is the same every morning. This tanker is the only source of water in this poor neighborhood in rural Pandi, a city that borders Pakistan's capital.
Life is hard for us. There's no water in our homes. We have to fill these cans with water. We need it for drinking and for our daily use.
There is some order to the chaos here. One by one, they all fill as many jerry cans as they can, as quickly as they can. They've not had a steady supply for weeks.
There's less water available in the city these days, and our water supply system has broken down, so people don't have any other options but to come here.
Start the pump.
In the countryside, it's a different story.
Fantastic, the water flows very well.
Even though there's a shortage of water in the city, here, a lot of it gets wasted. Waqas Jamal's family has owned these lands for generations. They pump the underground water and use these poorly made canals to irrigate, wasting nearly 40% of the water in the process.
You can see how water's wasted. We can't do anything because this canal is made of mud. The water leaks out to other fields, even if they do not need to be irrigated, which is harmful for the crops.
The agricultural sector uses 96% of the country's water resources. Almost all the irrigation systems resemble the one in Waka's fields. As a result, Pakistan is today one of the most water-stressed countries in the world.
We know there's a shortage of water in many parts of the country and that here the water flows in abundance and we waste it. But we cannot afford to upgrade our infrastructure.
Jakarta is a booming capital in Asia, but still this river is used as a source of water for millions here. People use it to do their dishes, to wash themselves, and some even drink it after boiling it. But at the same time, as you can see, this river is used for dumping garbage. So not surprisingly, this water is full of bacteria like E. coli. What not many people know is the risk of drinking groundwater. Because of a lack of tap water, 40% of the people here in Jakarta are forced to drink from rivers or from wells like this one. But the water is also contaminated because septic tanks here are not regularly cleaned. The government calls it a critical condition because many people are depending on this water for their daily needs. And drinking this, you run the risk of a serious disease. While the government is blaming the people for their unclean behavior, the main problem lies with the government and the water companies themselves. For 2 decades already, the water supply for the capital of Indonesia has not been increased. And pipes that are used to distribute water throughout the city are rotten or even stolen. And until today, drinking water from the tap here is considered unsafe. So despite promises by the government that by 2019 all Indonesians will have clean drinking water, many consider this promise as an empty promise.
Hillary Clinton is coming out of the woods and may be getting ready to make a comeback. Rumors are now swirling that the failed presidential candidate could run again in 2020. Her former campaign manager saying don't rule anything out just yet.
I think what matters right now, we've got to get to the bottom of what happened in 2016, then we can start worrying about the next cycle.
Clinton delivering a campaign-style speech in Pennsylvania over the weekend. It's only adding more fuel to the rumor fire. Stay tuned.
And a Barack Obama Day will not be celebrated in the former president's home state. Lawmakers in Illinois voting down the proposal to honor his birthday as a state holiday on August 4th. Republicans pointing out the fact that President Ronald Reagan was also born in Illinois, and he doesn't have a holiday in his state. What about that?